Welcome back, folks, to Hashtag AskJSM, the weekly Money Mailbag video where I answer your questions from YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter right here in this video form. Before we go ahead with your questions stemming from last night's very controversial Royal Rumble pay-per-view, to say the least, got some good news with the schedule that I have this upcoming semester here at school. I will continue to be able to do these videos, however, they will not be in video form. Doesn't really make that big of a difference. I mean, it doesn't really matter whether you see my face or not. As long as I'm answering the questions, as long as you guys keep on answering or sending in the questions, that's really all what it comes down to. So I appreciate the support, and I look forward to continuing to do Hashtag AskJSM going forward. So that being said, we got a lot of questions stemming from the Royal Rumble last night, and rightfully so. It was a very, negative, positive pay-per-view, whatever way you want to look at it. A lot of backlash, to say the least. But kicking it off here with Jose K, his first question was from YouTube. Have steel cage matches become boring to you? They always use the door to escape and have the heel partner smash the head to the face with the door, and they hardly ever escape now. I wouldn't say they've become boring. They have become a bit cliche. I mean, steel cage matches, and I hate to say, back in the day, but, at one point in time, steel cage matches were like the be-all, end-all of feuds. Nowadays, they're just used as like a transitional matchup, like the Hell in a Cell, but the difference between Hell in a Cell and steel cage is that steel cage, before Hell in a Cell, was usually used as the match to, prevent any interference and stuff like that, but a lot of the more recent steel cage matches, like John Cena versus Bray Wyatt, comes to my mind from Extreme Rules last year, and I hated everything about that matchup because the only real point behind having a steel cage stipulation to that matchup was so the Wyatt family members, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan at the time, couldn't interfere, yet they were interfering every 10 seconds. Wyatt was made out to look so weak, not only in that feud, but specifically in that match. And even though he won the match, I still say that did more damage than it did help him. All these months later, they're still trying to, build him back up from those terrible losses to John Cena at WrestleMania and Payback, respectively, in this terrible match at Extreme Rules. So I wouldn't say that they've become boring. I see where you're coming from. They have become formulaic, I will say that. I still enjoy steel cage matches, but the whole notion that they prevent interference and all this other bullshit is so ridiculous because they don't do that. Not only in WWE, TNA does the exact same thing. I don't watch many other promotions, so I can't speak for Ring of Honor or the Indies or whatever, but at least in the bigger companies, TNA and WWE, the steel cage stipulation means absolutely nothing. It's a nice quote-unquote ratings grabber, but aside from that, though, it really doesn't do anything to enhance the feuds. That stopped meaning something a long time ago. I do enjoy steel cage matches, and like I said, I see where you're coming from, but I have more of a problem with the matchup being used so often, and then them just ruining the concept, ruining the gimmick of the steel cage by having people interfere every 10 seconds. It just completely defeats the purpose, in my opinion. So his second question was, would you rather go to a pay-per-view that you knew CM Punk was coming back in? This is a multiple choice question here. That you knew CM Punk was coming back in, or a pay-per-view where John Cena turned heel, or a pay-per-view where Jeff Hardy returned, or one that had wrestlers using banned moves, blood appears, and Jerry Lawler and Booker T don't commentate. That was funny. Choose one of those four. Okay, so definitely not the last one because I really don't care. I love blood. Stuff when it's used meaningfully, but if every match on the show is a bloodbath, I don't really give a shit, personally. That's just me. And the banned moves thing is cool, but that's not really above all these other things. Jeff Hardy, I would take CM Punk coming back over Jeff Hardy any day of the week. I love Jeff Hardy. I do want him to come back at some point, but I would take a CM Punk return over Jeff Hardy. So it comes down to CM Punk coming back in or a pay-per-view where John Cena turns heel. Probably John Cena turning heel, if only because we haven't seen that before. I want CM Punk to come back. Don't get me wrong. I've talked this at length before. But I'd much rather see John Cena turn heel. Maybe it wouldn't even pan out. Maybe it would be terrible. And I've said this before, but at least they tried. At least they gave it a shot and gave people what they wanted to see. And maybe he still gets the same reactions. Maybe people start cheering him. I have no idea. But it would be interesting, so I'd probably have to go with John Cena turning heel. Even though I don't expect it to happen anytime soon, if ever, it would be cool. Of those choices that you presented me with, that over a CM Punk return or a Jeff Hardy return, or the other choice that you presented me with. His third question, which he put on the video immediately following the Royal Rumble, just kind of add on at the last second, I did catch it. So his third question was Daniel Bryan eliminated so early so that Roman Reigns wouldn't get so booed and left Rusev last because they expected him to get booed and not end up like it did? Absolutely. I was very disappointed with the eliminations of Daniel Bryan, of Ryback, Dolph Ziggler, Dean Ambrose, Bray Wyatt. The list goes on and on and on. With the exception of Bray Wyatt, he wasn't a fan favorite, and I would have taken a win from Wyatt over Roman Reigns, but that's another story for another day. But absolutely, that is the reason why they left Big Show in there. That's why they left Kane in there, and that's why they left Rusev in there, because they're the three biggest heels right now in WWE, with the exception of that guy named Seth Rollins, who kind of stole the show last night. But nevertheless, that is absolutely why they did it. I don't agree with it, but I can see why they did it. It didn't work because still people booed him anyway. And why WWE thought that would work, I have no idea. They knew, regardless of what happened, if Daniel Bryan lost and Roman Reigns won, people would boo the shit out of it. They should have seen that coming. I don't know why they didn't, but I don't want to go on a huge rant about this. But, yes, that is absolutely why they did. They had Daniel Bryan eliminated early because they expected, now that Daniel Bryan's out, they expect Roman to, the fans to get behind him and have him win. And if he takes out the three biggest heels, that'll mean something. Well, it sucks that the three biggest heels, Rusev's on his way. I don't have a problem with Rusev. It's more so with Big Show and Kane. The eliminations of Ryback, Ambrose, and Ziggler and Wyatt were so disgustingly bad at the hands of Big Show and Kane, and why they got as many eliminations as they did, I have absolutely no idea. That was disgusting in my opinion. I can't come up with a more fitting word than gross and disgusting for the performance of Big Show and Kane last night of the Royal Rumble. That just left me speechless more than anything else. So Justin G, his set of questions, and no, not Justin Gabriel, who quit over the weekend. Would be cool though, but Justin is still awesome. Justin Godsey. His set of questions included, his first one was, being such a big fan of Finn Balor, do you think that Finn Balor will be pushed to the next big thing, or as the next big thing in WWE at some point in his career? I would like to think so. I don't think he's going to be the next John Cena or the next Hulk Hogan or anything. He doesn't have the size of what Vince usually looks for in wrestlers, but I do think he will be huge. I've been saying this for the last couple of months now, but from the moment that he made his entrance at that TakeOver special, the guy comes off like a fucking star. Without even the entrance, when he debuted in NXT a couple months ago, back in maybe October, I think it was, he had that presence. He had an aura about him that no one else could ever match. It was so fucking amazing. And the guy comes off like a star, and they really have to make an effort to ruin this guy. They really have to make an effort to ruin him when he eventually gets called up to the main roster, which will hopefully be at some point. But I don't know if he's going to be pushed as the next big thing, like the Brock Lesnar or the John Cena's or the Hulk Hogan's. I don't really see that happening, but I can't see him being pushed as a top star in the company. He has the talent, he has the mic skills, he has the look. He's not a bodybuilder like a Roman Reigns or a John Cena, but I do think he has, that crowd connection. Everything about him just screams star, so hopefully we get that push with Finn Balor at some point in his career when he eventually gets called up. His second question was, do you think once guys like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are set to jump to the main roster that we will see Finn Balor as the next NXT champion? I would not be surprised, but you said when Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens go to the main roster. I expect Kevin Owens and Finn Balor to kind of be in the same package, maybe Hideo Itami as well, because Owens, Balor, and Itami all got called up to NXT at the same time, so therefore I expect them all to go up at the same time. Maybe not. Maybe Owens gets called up first. I think all will succeed in the main roster, but I expect Owens and Balor to go up at the same time. I don't think it's going to be as soon as the night after WrestleMania. I think that should be Neville and or Zayn. But I think it's a little too early for Owens, Balor, and Itami, even though they just, even though they can be in the main roster right now, I think they should be down in NXT for a little bit longer. But, scratch Kevin Owens. If Sami Zayn gets called up, can Finn Balor be the next NXT champion? Absolutely. I think, if you gave him the title right now, I think he could be a star. But I do think, yes, when Sami Zayn gets called up and they need more quote-unquote top stars in NXT, it's, the roster consists of like 20 guys. But when those top faces and top heels get called up, like the Adrian Nevilles, like the Sami Zayns, yes, they will need more of the main event superstars in NXT, and I think Finn Balor can fill that vacant spot very nicely. So yes, I can see Finn Balor as NXT champion after Sami Zayn, Adrian Neville, and maybe Kevin Owens gets called up. Like I said, I expect Owens, Balor, and Itami to get called up at the same time at some point down the line. His next question was, Charlotte has already proved to everybody down in NXT that she can run the ropes with the Divas on the main roster. When do you think that Charlotte deserves to be in the main roster, and do you think it might be the night after WrestleMania? So what I thought was a bit confusing was that right after she made her Raw debut at the Slammy Awards about a month ago, Triple H was making the rounds for the press conferences and the conference calls, to do, to promote the NXT TakeOver special that week. And he was saying after Charlotte lost in her main roster debut on Monday Night Raw to Natalya, he was saying that, when she gets called up in 6 months, no one will ever remember. Now, I don't know if that was an accurate timetable to say 6 months, or if he was exaggerating, or if he was just, just saying that just to say it. I'm not really sure. I hope it's not 6 months. At one point, like when she initially won the Women's Championship, and there were rumors of her being called up, I said back in May when she won the title that she was not ready. And I think at this point, once she drops that championship, whether it be at the next TakeOver special or right afterwards, I do think Charlotte can be in the main roster right after WrestleMania. It can be the night after WrestleMania, kind of take that spot that Paige left behind, that, the night after WrestleMania. Could be very cool. I would love to see it. I'm not sure if it will work out that way, but I would love to see it. But yeah, that being said, though, I do think she deserves to be in the main roster. Right now, I think right now she is making the most of what she has in NXT, so there's no real need for her to be in the main roster at this very moment, even though the Divas division desperately needs her. I mean, we've got Paige, of course, and AJ's currently out, but they have no stories in the Divas division right now. It really sucks. It's kind of been, par for the course for years, but you understand where I'm coming from. But, yeah, I do think it might be the night after WrestleMania. I didn't really envision that, but it could very well be as soon as the night after WrestleMania. I would love to see it. His next question was, with Justin Gabriel recently quit WWE, do you think this will open up the door for him to go to Impact Wrestling? What do you think about his chances as X Division champion if that does happen? I think both opportunities, both chances of him going to TNA and winning the X Division title are both very likely. He kind of fits that style like an Evan Bourne. I thought Evan Bourne would go to TNA, but he ended up going back to Ring of Honor, which is understandable because that's where, he first got started. Justin Gabriel has never been in Ring of Honor, whether he goes to Ring of Honor or if he goes to Impact or if he goes to the Indies, whatever. I see him flourishing wherever he goes. I still say to this day that WWE dropped the ball on him. I don't think he could have been a world champion. I don't think his mic skills kind of allowed that, but I do think he was decent enough on the mic. He was great in the ring, very underrated talent in my opinion, that they could have done something with him coming out of Nexus or the Core. And I've talked about this here on the show before. It might have been Justin or it might have been somebody else that asked me about it, whether I saw Justin Gabriel being a star in NXT or eventually getting the push he deserves. I said no, because, they've marginalized this guy for so long, and Tyson Kidd was a bit different. Because I think Tyson Kidd has the charisma to pull it off. I just don't see Justin Gabriel being on the same level as like a Tyson Kidd. But yeah, they've wasted him for so long that there was really nothing they could do with him, at the end of his run in WWE. Like I said in a couple of weeks ago here on the show, that he just looked like he was going through the motions. So it really sucks that he's gone. I commend him if he did quit and if he wasn't released. I respect his decision. I'm a big fan of Justin Gabriel, and I do think he will do well wherever he goes. And if he does go to TNA, like you said, and he does win the X Division title, I'd be all for it. Not because he's an ex-WWE guy. It's like fucking Derek Bateman. Like, they never did anything with Derek Bateman in WWE. It's not like that at all. Like, if they take the lower card guys and they make them something in TNA, like, that's great. At least they're finding some place to work. It's different than like a Jeff Hardy or a Kurt Angle. Like, those are branded as ex-WWE guys. Justin Gabriel's in a better position than Derek Bateman because he actually did stuff. He did have some success in the main roster, not much, but he was a former multi-time WWE Tag Team Champion, Justin Gabriel was. But even still, I don't think he has that stigma of being an ex-WWE guy, so I could see him flourishing in TNA if he does go there. His next and final question was, during the Invasion storyline, do you think that the WCW titles were pretty much worthless when WCW started putting their titles on the line on SmackDown and Raw? I don't know if I would call them worthless, but it does say something. It does speak volumes that I'll just say this. I think there was a reason why they ended up unifying the championships, all of them. They got rid of the WCW title. They got rid of the United States, the tag team titles. They got rid of all the championships. And there's a reason why. They had a big enough roster. I mean, they ended up bringing those titles back a fucking year or two later when they had the SmackDown brand, and they branded them as their own. They didn't, refer to them as the WCW championships. Like the World Heavyweight Championship, they got rid of that. They brought it back a fucking year later. So, they were pretty much worthless at the point in the Invasion. I mean, the entire Invasion storyline was obviously a botch in everything involving, even the championship matches. The WCW champion versus the WWE champion could have meant something, but they made it pretty much worthless, especially given who was involved. Like, I love Booker, but if he's the biggest star that you got coming into an Invasion, then you got an issue. So, I do think the WCW championships were worthless, hence why they ended up unifying all of them a couple of months later at Survivor Series of that year in 2001. So going into the Facebook questions here, Muhammad D, with all those rage from the Philly fans when Roman Reigns won the Rumble, do you have a feeling that Vince McMahon already had a plan in case of fans rioting like they did at the Rumble? Let me read that back again. Do you have a feeling that Vince McMahon already had a plan in case of the fans rioting after what happened at the Royal Rumble? I don't know if they had a plan. Like, I read some report that they expected it, but they didn't think it would be as bad as it was. what fucking company is this? And I'll talk about this in a minute. And I don't want to express my disdain for the Royal Rumble main event. That's not what this is about. I'll talk about that a little bit on WrestleRant Radio. And I know this is like WrestleRant. That's like who I am. That's my brand. But I don't really want to take the time in this forum anyway to rant about this. I just think it's funny. I'm not going to say it's terrible or great or whatever. I just think it's funny that this is the same company that fucked up last year with Batista winning the Royal Rumble, got the reaction they did so immensely bad that they were forced to change their WrestleMania plans. So why they thought it would fly a year later with Roman Reigns, I have no idea. So this is the same fucking company. And this is the same guy, Vince McMahon, that says he claims he is not out of touch. You know, going back and watching that interview with Stone Cold is just comical at this point. But did he have a plan? Maybe. I mean, it's really too early to tell. I'm recording this the day after the Rumble, even before Raw tonight, which is likely to be canceled due to the storm. So we probably have no idea what they have in store for the road to WrestleMania until maybe a couple weeks down the line. And maybe they fix it. Maybe there's a big plan in place. Maybe Reigns goes heel and Lesnar goes babyface, which was teased last week. I really have no idea. But I don't think they had a plan. I think they tried to position it in a way, like I said earlier, when someone asked a question as to how the eliminations were booked with Daniel Bryan and all this other shit, and when Roman Reigns and it came down to him, Big Show, Kane, and Rusev. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Maybe Rusev, but Big Show and Kane, are you kidding me? In 2015, what fucking year is this? You know what I mean? So, no, I don't think he had a plan in place. He probably just thought it would, go off without a hitch, or maybe he expected some issues, but probably not as bad as it was. But again, I stress, what fucking company is this? Did they even bother watching their pay-per-view back on the WWE Network from last year? And after what happened that year, like I said, I'm not going to express my distaste for the main event of the Royal Rumble and Reigns winning. I think it's more in WWE than it is Roman Reigns. It's not his fault. But I just think it's funny. With WWE, they just, with everything that happened last year, they go down this same exact route. And they thought it would fly, and it didn't. I just find that funny. So, no, I don't think they had a backup plan in case that happened. Because nothing, they brought in Rock. Maybe that was their quote-unquote backup plan, but that didn't work. I mean, they popped big for Rock, and they probably thought that bringing in Rock would help get Roman over, but newsflash, it didn't. People still booed the fucking hell out of Roman Reigns regardless once Rocky left the ring. So it sucks. I mean, they really try to put Reigns over something huge by having him eliminate three of the quote-unquote the biggest heels in the company in the form of Big Show and Kane, and then having Rock come out and endorse him. It didn't work. I'm sorry. I like Roman Reigns. I think he's going to be a star one day, but like I said last time on Twitter, he's simply not ready for the main event of WrestleMania. So he's got a few more questions here. Do you feel that the triple threat match between John Cena, Brock Lesnar, and Seth Rollins had elevated Seth Rollins as possibly the new fan favorite right now? It shouldn't have, maybe. I mean, with that, I don't even know what the fuck to call it. Someone called it the Phoenix or something like that when they mentioned it to me last night on Twitter. I don't know what he calls it. Maybe he used it back in his Ring of Honor days. I really have no idea. But that high-flying maneuver that he did off the top rope, simply epic is really all that I can call it. But no, I don't think they're positioning it as the new fan favorite. If anything, if they had to turn anyone in that matchup, it'd probably be Brock Lesnar. Seth Rollins is doing such a great job right now as the new heel, as like the top heel. Like I said before, with Big Show and Kane being on the top of that list, they need heels right now, so they cannot afford to turn Lesnar or Seth Rollins. So I don't think they're positioning him as the next fan favorite. Maybe he got over in that fashion, and Philadelphia loved the guy. They love Brock Lesnar too, obviously. But I don't think it was meant to turn him babyface because they need heels right now, especially at a time when you have Big Show and Kane. I can't stress that enough. As main eventers in 2015, I mean, they need top heels, so they cannot afford to turn a Seth Rollins or a Brock Lesnar. Muhammad's next question was, with the Royal Rumble done and dusted, do you feel that the WWE has already set up the main matches for WrestleMania 31 before the Royal Rumble even happened? Well, that always happens. They date back usually to the fall, dating back to Survivor Series. They usually have a good idea of what main matches are going to do at WrestleMania, with last year being the exception. They put Daniel Bryan into the main event last year at the last minute because of the fan outrage and the backlash surrounding Batista coming back to the Royal Rumble and everything else. Usually, though, the main event matches, the undercard, they throw together at the last minute, usually more so often in the last few years than in the entire event history of WrestleMania. But more so in recent years, the main matches they have in place, dating back to Survivor Series. And Roman Reigns has been, pegged to win the Royal Rumble dating back to maybe August, like at SummerSlam when Brock Lesnar won the championship. So that really wasn't all too surprising when he won. A lot of people were disappointed with it, but the plan has been in place for, God knows how long at this point. For all we know, Reigns versus Lesnar might have been pegged back when Lesnar broke the streak last year WrestleMania. They might have already thought he was going to win the championship and Reigns was going to go on to win the Rumble. It was pretty obvious the direction they were going in. We didn't know until just recently that Reigns wasn't ready for the WrestleMania main event. But that match has been slated for a while, so they knew that was going to already happen. So hence why they went with the direction they did. They should have changed the direction and gone with Daniel Bryan or Ziggler or Ambrose. They didn't. But time will tell whether they change that going to WrestleMania 31 and how Roman Reigns gets over with the audience. But yes, usually they do already have the main matches set for WrestleMania long before the Royal Rumble even starts. They don't go into the Royal Rumble cold and have no idea what they're going to do otherwise. Usually WWE doesn't have any long-term plans in place when it comes to a lot of shit, but when it comes to the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, usually they have their main event matches set in place many months in advance, as we have seen with Reigns and Lesnar, dating back to many months ago when Lesnar won the title. So that wasn't too shocking. So yes, they've had that set in stone for the last couple of months now. His next question was, here's what I think will be the case at WrestleMania 31. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE title. Reigns wins the championship. Seth Rollins cashes in his Money in the Bank briefcase and wins the WWE Championship. Reigns versus Rollins at Extreme Rules. Do you feel that what I mentioned can happen? I think at this point, people have been saying this for months, so it's not really a bold statement. I've been saying it. Everyone's been saying it, so it's not really something that's new. But I can absolutely see that happening. Roman Reigns at this point, if they don't turn him heel and they keep him as a babyface going to WrestleMania and Lesnar as the heel, then he has to win at this point because Brock Lesnar will likely be gone after WrestleMania. He'll be going back to UFC. So they have to take the championship off of him, obviously. Reigns will win. Like I've talked about here in the show before, I don't know if Rollins would cash in at WrestleMania because I cannot recall a single time in WrestleMania history where they've had a heel close off the show with the championship or whatever. They have never had a heel close off the show, as a last man standing, whatever. Like in years past, we've had Miz go over WrestleMania at 27. We had Triple H win, who was also a heel at the time of WrestleMania 2000. But on both occasions, The Rock laid both guys out. Coincidentally enough, it had to be The Rock. And he closed the show as the last guy standing, sending the crowd home happy. There has not been one WrestleMania in the last 30 years that has ever ended with a heel standing tall. So maybe Seth Rollins wins the championship and Reigns gets the last word. Like, I have no idea how that would work. I just say you pull a Dolph Ziggler. Maybe it's a bit, too similar. But what you can do is what you did a couple of years ago. Have Dolph Ziggler cash in night after WrestleMania on Monday Night Raw, win the championship from Reigns. Some people say that Reigns has to have, a couple month reign as WWE World Heavyweight Champion for a couple of months. You can give him that reign after he wins the belt back from Seth Rollins. It doesn't really have to be right off the bat. I wouldn't be surprised, though. I definitely see Seth Rollins cashing in. He has to cash in at some point, and I don't want to see him cash in unsuccessfully. And it has to be before, I think, either June or July, before the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. I think it's in June again this year. So he has a couple more months left, and I think he's either going to do it. I don't think he's going to do it at WrestleMania. It would be awesome because that's never been done before in the 10-year history of Money in the Bank. But I still say it's going to happen the night after WrestleMania, but time will tell. But it is very likely that could happen, what you mentioned. Roger W., his question was, do you think that Daniel Bryan, who is seemingly out of the title picture, will be the one to stop Rusev's streak? So, of course, if you didn't watch the Fallout show, and I didn't either, but from what I heard, John Cena and Rusev had an altercation backstage, and it looks like they're already planting the seeds for that WrestleMania match too. So that's also been another match that's been in the works for a very long time now. Not in terms of like storyline support, but that's been rumored since fucking September or October, and I'm not too happy with it. I've talked about this in the past on the show. I really like Rusev. I think he has potential, but I do not think John Cena, anybody but John Cena, should be the one to end the streak of Rusev, because John Cena, we've seen him end the undefeated streaks of Umaga, Tensai, Kali, who was the guy? Ryback. He ended his momentum a couple of years ago. There was someone more recently, too. I can't remember who it was. But bottom line is that John Cena is always the guy to put in that. Bray Wyatt last year, WrestleMania. So for John Cena to do the exact repeat of what he did last year and end the undefeated streak of Rusev, much like he did with Wyatt at WrestleMania 30, would be asinine in my opinion. I do not see Rusev beating John Cena at WrestleMania either. It would be amazing. I don't see it happening. It would be great. but I just don't have enough faith in WWE in order for them to do that. So at this point, based on what happened last night at Royal Rumble, I am assuming we are getting Cena versus Rusev, which sucks. I do not want to see that. I would much rather see Rusev versus Bryan, like you said, or Rusev fucking and him rock for him, which we also got another question about, which I'll get to in a little bit. But I'd much rather see Rusev and Ambrose, Rusev Ziggler, Rusev Ryback, which is what I've been saying forever. Rusev and Ryback should happen at WrestleMania, not at Fastlane. But no, unfortunately, I do not see that happening with Bryan and Rusev at this point. Like I said, it looks like we could be getting, or we will be getting, Rusev versus Cena at WrestleMania, which sucks. But that's what WWE wants to do, so they're going to do what they want to do, which sucks, but it's the way it's got to be. So Andre G, his question was, do you think Cody Rhodes is the best tag team specialist in the WWE today? Yeah, I would say so. Cody Rhodes has been in so many tag teams over the course of his career, which is kind of criminal when you think about it. The guy should have been something so long ago. He's still relatively young, where I think he can break out as a world champion performer. At this point, I don't think WWE will do that. I think he has the talent to do that, but they've saddled him with so many gimmicks. He has to get rid of the Stardust gimmick to begin with. That gimmick will go nowhere, especially once Goldust is gone. It's an exact repeat of that. I mean, it works as a tag team, but Stardust on his own will not work, and Cody Rhodes is being wasted in that role. But as a tag team specialist, I think he's great. I mean, like I said, I think he could be much more. I think as a singles performer, he has a lot of untapped potential. But in terms of a tag team specialist, absolutely. He's tag teamed with Hardcore Holly, Ted DiBiase, Drew McIntyre, who else? Damian Sandow just recently, and now Goldust. So that's 5 different tag team partners, 4 of whom he won tag team titles with. With some people like DiBiase on 2 different occasions. So yes, I do think Cody Rhodes is the best tag team specialist in WWE right now. And his next question was, who do you see next leaving the WWE? So I really have no idea. Anything can change, and just within the blink of a second, anything can happen. So I really can't say he will be the next to leave. I could have seen Justin Gabriel getting released, but reports, if they are believed to be true, then he quit the company. He didn't get released, so I'm not really sure what the deal with that is. But I really have no idea. If you're asking me who I would like to see next leave, then David Otunga, who I've talked about before, serves no purpose in this company whatsoever. He hasn't been on TV in like a year. He's not a great wrestler. He's really no asset to the company. I respect the guy. I like David Otunga as a person, but as a wrestler, he is horrendous. He's really no asset to the company or the roster whatsoever. So having him on their payroll just is mind-boggling to me when they get rid of, Drew McIntyre and all these other people. Just makes no sense to me. So that's who I would like to see get released, and I hate to see anyone out of a job, so I hate to even answer that question. But I don't know who's going to be the next to leave, because it doesn't look like Mark Henry's going to be done anytime soon. Big Show Kane, unfortunately. Big Show will be here for a while, so I really have no idea. So it's hard to answer that question. But Stephen J., his question was, will Bray Wyatt face Sting at WrestleMania? Once again, like I said with Cena and Rusev, it looks like at this point in time, and this goes back to Survivor Series when they first teased it, that we're getting Triple H and Sting at WrestleMania and not Bray Wyatt and Sting. I mean, it would be a cool match. And Bray Wyatt, I mean, at this point, it's slowly looking like we're getting Bray Wyatt versus Undertaker at WrestleMania for a variety of reasons. One, because they had him go over Dean Ambrose in every single one of their fucking matches, which really annoyed me, because as much as I like Bray Wyatt, they really should have given Dean Ambrose a big win. And at this point, I don't think he's ever going to get one. If it didn't come in the Rumble, and I have no idea what they're going to do with him going into WrestleMania, same thing with Ziggler and Bryan. It's very concerning right now, but bottom line is that no, I do not think Sting and Wyatt's going to happen at WrestleMania. They've already teased Triple H and Sting, not on one occasion, but on 2 occasions at Survivor Series and last week on Raw. So that looks like it's set in stone for WrestleMania, Sting versus Triple H. Maybe Sting and Undertaker next year. We'll have to wait and see. But Sting and Wyatt is definitely not happening at WrestleMania this year. What they do with Wyatt, again, I have no idea. They've been booking him so strongly. He's been winning almost all of his matches. He was made to look strong with the exception of the way he was eliminated in the Royal Rumble. In that match, he was made out to look very, very strong. So, if rumors are to be believed, we could be getting Wyatt and Undertaker at WrestleMania. That's a match I wouldn't have a problem seeing, but again, if they're going to be on the same card, if you're going to have Sting and Undertaker in separate matches on the show, it just makes no sense to me why you wouldn't just do Sting and Undertaker. I know the match would be shit, and I've talked about this before. I know the match would be shit. Both guys are over 50 years old, but that's the money fucking match they need to do at WrestleMania if they want to get eyes on the product. Sting and Undertaker is a dream match, and if they want to make money at WrestleMania, I mean, they're going to make money regardless, obviously, but if you're going to have those guys in the same show, they need to be facing each other. Wyatt may benefit from a win over The Undertaker, but I don't know. Undertaker's match last year sucked. Bray Wyatt's match last year sucked, and I don't know what putting them in the same ring together would really do. And after losing last year, I mean, would you really want to have Undertaker win or lose as 2 years in a row after going 21-0 or 21-0 at WrestleMania, then losing 2 years in a row? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And Sting doesn't have to win at WrestleMania if he's going to do one match. I don't know. I just don't get it. And Undertaker should not go over Bray Wyatt, so it's a lose-lose situation. So, no. To answer your question, Bray Wyatt versus Sting will not happen at WrestleMania. We'll probably get Sting versus Triple H. That is pretty much set in stone at this point in time. So Connor O'Keefe, who is sitting right next to me right now, he is my roommate, asked this question via Facebook. I'm going to be answering this question while he sits right next to me right now. When will The Rock and Rusev finally throw down? We got robbed tonight in that regard of the Royal Rumble. So when will Rock and Rusev finally go at it? That's a good question. I would love to see them go at it, and I was a bit disappointed it did not happen in the Rumble match itself, if only because they teased it on that Raw a couple of months ago, and there were some rumors that we could be seeing Rock and Rusev at WrestleMania. I do not think that's happening, by the way. Obviously, like I said, we're getting Cena and Rusev. It sucks, but it does not look like we're getting Rock and Rusev at WrestleMania. It would be cool if they did like a one-off segment on an episode of Raw where they encountered one another. Maybe that was just a one-off on Raw a couple of weeks ago. I think Rock and Rusev would be a really cool program. It would launch Rusev in an all-new stratosphere of superstardom, and giving where his place on the card right now is. I mean, he would also get that rub from John Cena, and maybe it sounds hypocritical to say that I would rather see Rocco over Rusev, have him beat Rusev, and I wouldn't want to see that have the same thing happen with John Cena. The only reason why I say that is because we've seen John Cena end the undefeated streak of monster after monster after monster. It's the same story they tell every single year with John Cena. Most recently, last year at WrestleMania with Bray Wyatt. So why you would do it again, I have absolutely no idea. At least Rock makes a little more sense, and people would be more in favor of him winning, because you don't see that all the time with The Rock. And Rusev being in a match with The Rock would get more mainstream attention than a match with Cena would, in my opinion anyway. So at this point, it does not look like, if they didn't encounter one another at last night of the Royal Rumble, it does not look like we will get that matchup between Rock and Rusev ever, which sucks because I would like to see that, if anything, more so than Cena Rusev. I'd much rather see anything but Cena Rusev, but anyway, it does not look like we're going to get Rock and Rusev, unfortunately, but it would be cool if it led to something. It would have been nice if we got a little brief altercation between the two in the Royal Rumble last night. It was so perfect, too, because Rusev was one of the last two in there, and Rock fended off Big Show and Kane, so why they wouldn't do anything with those guys is absolutely beyond me. But no, at this point in time, unfortunately, it looks like we will not get Rock and Rusev. So Jordan Z, his question was, what was your reaction to Bubba Ray Dudley returning to a WWE ring? And do you think he'll be a full-time wrestler for the WWE, or was this a one-and-done day deal? I was ecstatic. I mean, Bubba Ray Dudley has been gone from WWE for the last decade, so it was really cool to see him back in the Rumble match. Albeit at number 3, I mean, that was a real shocker. But that was the one surprise heading into the Rumble that I was really looking forward to seeing, and seeing if it would pan out, and it did, and I was really excited for it, and he had a great showing. Granted, Devon wasn't there with him, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, he still had R-Truth, so it still worked regardless. But yeah, I thought it was great. It was one of, according to some people, the only highlight in the Rumble. I don't know if I would agree with that, but it was definitely among the highlights, and so that made for a great moment. But to answer the second part of your question, will he be a full-time wrestler for the WWE, or was this a one-and-done type deal? Probably more one-and-done type deal. From what I've read, it looks like it was only a special appearance. It's not going to be a full-time thing, which is fine. I mean, I think if he's under a Legends deal, that would also be still really cool. But if they brought in him and Devon for one more run in the tag team division as Team 3D, the Dudleys, whatever, that would be amazing. I think there's more of a chance of that happening than Bubba coming back in as a singles guy. Which, like I've said before, I love Bubba, Bully Ray, whatever you want to call him. I love him as a performer. I think he did some of the best work of his career over in TNA as a heel. But the bottom line is that I think in TNA, or in WWE anyway, they would very much limit his character as far as what he can do. And I had this conversation with someone last night on Twitter, in that if he was to turn heel in WWE, people still see him as a tag team guy. He was never anything special as a singles guy over in WWE. For the 5-6 years they were there, he may have been a singles competitor for a cup of coffee, but aside from that, he was never really on his own for the most part, whether he was teaming with Devon or Spike or whatever. So Bubba on his own would never work, in my opinion, in WWE, because they would never allow him to be the character, to live up to its full potential like he did in TNA, because they don't have as many restrictions with them not being PG, whatever. But to answer your question, I do think it was more of a one-and-done type deal. But it would be awesome to see him and Devon have one more run in the tag team division if they would opt to do so, which I think they're open to, because they could still go in the ring, and it would be cool to see. So Sal D'Angelo, his question was, so fantasy booking here, what are your thoughts on an NXT Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania with a main roster spot being on the line between the top 6 NXT superstars, Adrian Neville, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, Hideo Itami, and Baron Corbin? Is this a good idea? I don't know about those 6 superstars, specifically. I think the concept itself would be amazing. The match itself would be amazing that you proposed. I don't know if they would put those 6 guys in a matchup together, but and I think you actually named 7 people, not 6. Oh no, you didn't name 6. I'm sorry, but yeah, that matchup for one thing would be amazing. And could it happen? The chances of it happening are not too likely. I would love to see the Money in the Bank matchup back at WrestleMania, but the fact that it's its own pay-per-view at this point in time is okay. Like, I don't mind that, because the pay-per-view is always really good to great to awesome. So, technically it wouldn't even be a Money in the Bank match. It would just be a 6-way ladder match with the winner getting a WWE contract. I love the idea of that. It gives the NXT guys some love. It showcases their talent on the grandest show of the year. And I said this last year. I wrote an article about this, and that the NXT talents should have had a match on the pre-show. And maybe they'll still do that this year. I think that could be great, whether it be for the NXT title or whatever. Like the Access stuff they do, that's cool and all. They get some exposure at the WrestleMania Access stuff, and that's great. But I think putting them on the WrestleMania card itself, albeit in the pre-show match, which is fine, at least it's on the show, at least it's giving the brand more exposure. And NXT right now is in a better spot. It's always increasing every single year. It's gone a long way from 2012 to 2013 to 2013 to 2014 to 2014 to 2015. If you catch my drift. So that being said, I think the match happening at WrestleMania is not too likely. But it would be cool to see, though. I love the concept. Like I said, I don't know about those 6 superstars specifically. It would be awesome. I think the match itself could be great. But would love to see it. Don't see it happening, but would great to see it regardless. So next question comes from @HardyDX His question was, what would you say is the biggest Royal Rumble moment? Good question. There's a lot of moments. I can't say that one sticks out above all the rest. Shawn Michaels winning from number 1 in 1995 was surely something unprecedented, because that had never been done before. Rey Mysterio doing the same thing in 2006 was also great, but I think, I'm not even going to talk about predictability, but it also made for a hell of a moment. He was, the longest competitor ever in Royal Rumble history to last that long, to last over, I think it was 62 minutes or something like that. So, Mysterio and Michaels lasting from number 1 to win it is definitely among the best Royal Rumble moments of all time. John Cena, whether you like him or hate him, you have to admit that his return in the 2008 Rumble match at Madison Square Garden that nobody knew about is definitely among the best Rumble moments, the best returns in WWE history. So that's definitely up on there on the list. Like a lot of returns come to mind, like Booker coming back and Kevin Nash. Like those were really cool. Edge coming back to win it in 2010. I wouldn't put those in like the top 3, but they're definitely on the list though. So I'm thinking back in history here. Like when Stone Cold won it maybe for the 3rd time, maybe that's up there. But for right now, I would say for the emotion of the moment that it created. Same thing with Benoit when he won in 2004. When Michaels, Benoit, and Mysterio won from the opening 1 and 2 slots in 95, 04, and 06 respectively. Those are definitely among, I think, the best Rumble moments. It's all subjective. It really all depends on who you talk to. But if I had to pick the best Rumble moment in history, it would have to be one of those few. So at Daniel Cabeza 59, his question was, when is WWE going to learn? And of course he sent that right after the Rumble pay-per-view ended. So I am too confused with why they did the same exact thing they did last year, in that they have a plan in place. I understand that. They've had this plan in place, and I talked about this before, in that Reigns versus Lesnar has been rumored as far back as fucking SummerSlam back in August. But Daniel Bryan's return, if Daniel Bryan hadn't returned, I was just thinking about this. Had Daniel Bryan not returned, I don't think Reigns, winning the Rumble probably would not have gotten a great reaction, but it definitely would have been better, because the show was all about Daniel Bryan winning that Rumble. And not only the fact that he did not last until the final for a Final 5 or Final 10. He got eliminated so early in such an anticlimactic manner, in that I don't blame the crowd for being pissed, and I don't think they should be blamed for the poor booking in the final half of that matchup. So I don't know when they're going to learn, to answer your question. I don't know why they did the same thing, because like I said, I talked about this last week here in the show and in previous articles, whatever, in that if they expected the reaction to be different from last year when people revolted against Batista winning, they're so stupid. I don't know how you can possibly mess that up. I mean, it's so simple to book a Rumble match and its winner. You listen to the people. And Reigns, like I said before, I have nothing against Roman Reigns. I think he is a future star. I think he's very, very good. But it's obviously too soon for him to be main eventing WrestleMania. His in-ring skills are kind of there. His mic skills are not. His character development is not there either. And neither is the crowd connection if the Rumble win last night was any indication. So I have no idea when they're going to learn. Hopefully they don't make the same mistake 3 years in a row, and some may argue 4 years in a row with John Cena winning in 2013. The Rumble win that year was not nearly as negative as it was to Batista and especially Roman Reigns. I mean, it was predictable. We knew it was happening. I mean, it was also predictable that Batista was going to win and that Roman Reigns was going to win, but that year, there wasn't a clear-cut favorite like there was for Daniel Bryan the past 2 years. In 2013, there wasn't a Daniel Bryan. I mean, Daniel Bryan was in the matchup, obviously, but there wasn't a clear-cut favorite like, we need this guy to win. It makes sense. It would be awesome. We didn't have one of those in 2013, so the reaction wasn't nearly as negative. That's what I'm saying. If Daniel Bryan wasn't in the Rumble match last year or this year, I mean, he wasn't even in it last year, but if he wasn't around, if his popularity wasn't at where it is, or was last year and is this year, then the reaction to the Rumble win would not have been nearly as negative as it was, in my opinion. But at Cody Collier 12, his question was, do you think the fans are more angry or angrier about Reigns winning the Rumble match win? Or let me rephrase that. His question was, do you think the fans are madder about Reigns' Rumble match win than Batista's win last year? I don't think it's more so about Roman Reigns. I think more people are upset with the fact that they did it twice in a row than anything else. I mean, the reaction of Batista winning was massively negative, but I think the fact they made the same mistake 2 years in a row is more indicative of how WWE thinks of their audience and stuff like that. Like I said before, I don't want to go on a huge rant about this, but the fact that they did it 2 years in a row and that you went with the predictable pick, the people that, Batista and Reigns are two very different people. Batista, him and Orton was not fresh. Batista should not have won the Rumble match for a second time. It made no sense from a storyline standpoint. Well, kind of. But Daniel Bryan was the guy they should have gone with at the time. And granted, they made up for it. He won the main event of WrestleMania. He got in that matchup. He won the belt. They made up for it. But that's not going to happen this year. They're absolutely not going to put Daniel Bryan in the championship matchup. I read a report that they've gone to the well too many times with that. Coming from the same company that has, put the championship on John Cena for, 15 times and done whatever else a million times over. But nevertheless, so saying what I was saying before, I don't think it was more so about Roman Reigns. It was not more so about Roman Reigns than it was WWE pulling the same shit 2 years in a row. Roman Reigns' development is just not there. That's the biggest difference between Reigns winning and Batista winning. People just didn't want to see Batista and Orton. We've seen that a million times over. Their matches are never really anything great. It was not a fresh match, and Daniel Bryan should have been in that slot, and he did, eventually, of course. This year, it's a different story because Roman Reigns, his development, it just isn't there. I mean, I'm happy it's a fresh face. Roman Reigns has never been world champion before, and all this other stuff, of course, but at least it's a fresh match. Like, I'm happy we're getting something we've never seen before. But the bottom line is that he's just not ready. The crowd connection isn't there. His mic skills aren't there. I don't know how well this match is going to fare. With Roman Reigns being involved, facing Brock Lesnar. So time will tell. I don't want to complain about it right now. I will reserve judgment until later on in the road to WrestleMania. But, I do think fans are madder, as you said, about Reigns winning the Rumble match than Batista, if only because we saw it 2 years in a row. I think that's more so. It's not about Reigns. It's more so the fact it's on WWE. The heat is on WWE for pulling the same shit for 2 consecutive years. At Brad Brodar, his question was, do you think if given the chance, could Yoshitatsu have been a good mid-card in WWE? Absolutely. I think they dropped the ball on Yoshi. He was never really anything more than an enhancement talent. Like I was saying earlier about Justin Gabriel, I think he also could have been something good. Like, he could have been a very solid mid-card guy. but after years of being marginalized, like they couldn't do anything with him. By the time that Yoshi got cut from the company in mid 2014, I think it was, he was already a loser. He was already an enhancement talent. There was really nothing they could do to salvage that guy's career. So early on, though, yes, I think he could have been a very solid mid-carder. I enjoyed his work in the WWE version of ECW. He had a lot of good matches with Christian and Ryder and Regal. He was coming along very, very well. But once he made it to Raw and SmackDown, they just made him a jobber. They just made him a guy that nobody really cared about. So, yeah, he could have been a mid-carder had they booked him correctly. I mean, his in-ring skills were actually very great. He was actually very underrated, in my opinion. If you saw his, work over in Japan, you would know that. But, yeah, they dropped the ball with him by making him a loser, making him a jobber, and never really, capitalizing on the opportunity to make more of Yoshitatsu in his time with WWE before he became a jobber. So, Brad's second question was, can you rank all the Royal Rumble matches that have occurred since you started watching wrestling? So, I started watching wrestling in April of 2008, so I cannot count the 2008 Rumble match. And of all these Rumbles that I'm about to name, the only one that I've actually never seen was the 2009 one. I know enough about it to rank it, but I never went back and watched it on the network. I probably will at some point. Here we go. From best to worst. Best, I would have to put 2011. I've talked about this before, but I thought the 2011 Rumble was not everybody's favorite, but I don't know. It just holds a special place in my heart. I thought it was very, very good. For a 40-man Rumble, I thought it was great. They made the most of it. They told a lot of great stories. Del Rio was made into a star that night if he wasn't already a star that already. We had that, Booker T's return, Kevin Nash's return, the dominance of the new Nexus, some fun little comedy shit, even though some people hated it, with Cena and Hornswoggle. It was what it was. I didn't really mind it too much. And then CM Punk had a great showing. Cena lasted a while. The surprise of Santino almost winning. There was a lot to like about the 2011 Rumble match, in my opinion. The 2010 Rumble is up next. I also thought that was a very underrated Rumble. The pay-per-view does not get the credit it deserves. The undercard was not amazing, but it was good enough to earn a spot on this list as a second best Rumble match that I've seen anyway. Once again, a lot of stories being told in that matchup, with Shawn Michaels' journey to WrestleMania to face The Undertaker for a second time, and his acting in that matchup, and him, sweet chin musicking or delivering a sweet chin music to the referee afterward, and everything that went on with Shawn Michaels in that matchup, I thought was amazing, and that was a great story told. CM Punk was hilarious in the first 10, 12 minutes, whatever it was, when he was eliminating superstars left and right, and, cutting a promo in the Rumble match, which is, unprecedented before Bray Wyatt did it this year. So, yeah, CM Punk had a strong showing. Triple H did really well. Shawn Michaels was great. Edge coming back and winning the Rumble. Batista had a good showing when he was in there. Jericho, too. So, yeah, I thought that was a really good Rumble. Does not get the credit it deserves. So, 2011, 2010. Up next, number 3. Again, a Rumble a lot of people may not agree with me with on here, but the 2013 one I thought was great. I did not really care for John Cena winning. I would have preferred Ryback winning that year's Rumble. I think he was at the peak of his popularity, and that was the time to capitalize on his constant losses, build it up to a big win. Never ended up happening, but that should have been the time they did it. But everything else before that I thought was great. The returns of Jericho, Goldust, Godfather were all amazing. John Cena had a good showing that year, of course, would go on to win it. What else happened in that year? Jericho and Ziggler had a hell of a showing. They were in there for such a long time. I think they were in there for over 45 minutes, maybe. So that would have been that would have been amazing. So I thought 2013 Rumble was excellent. 2009, like I said, I did not watch it. I have yet to watch it on the network. I didn't watch it live. I haven't seen it since. But I know enough about it to know that it was decent. It wasn't a bad Rumble. Just, again, not a lot of stories told. So we get down to the 3 worst. So from least worst to most worst, I guess you want to rank it. I don't know. This year, I thought, up until Daniel Bryan's elimination, I thought it was great. The returns of Boogeyman, Bubba Dudley, DDP, Zack Ryder even, I thought were all great. And then after Daniel Bryan got eliminated, it was all fucking downhill from there. And we just had a long string of entrants that people did not give 2 shits about, from Kofi to Adam Rose to Big E. Like, a lot of people that people were just like, I don't give a fuck about this guy. So there just wasn't a lot of interesting stuff. And then we get to the finish with Big Show and Kane taking out fucking Ambrose and Ziggler, and I think Bray Wyatt too, and Ryback, and the fashion they did it was so gross. I mean, why they had 3 of their oldest guys, or 2 of their oldest guys in the company as top heels right now, eliminate 3 of the freshest faces in WWE today, made just absolutely no sense to me. So everything up until Daniel Bryan's elimination I thought was great. It went from great to horrendous in the matter of minutes. But that what I put on there. Second worst, I would say 2014. again, some people may say that this year was worse than last year, but 2014 was different in that there were some cool surprises. Like I enjoyed Kevin Nash being in there. Sheamus coming back was nice too. But unlike this year, I mean, there was a lot wrong with this year's Rumble, but at least with 2014, like, I just can't remember much about it at all. There were no real stories told. Like I said, you can make a case for 2015 being the same, but in 2014, we had Reigns eliminating everybody, which was something, and then Batista coming in and winning it. But everything else before that was just, there was really nothing to care about. Like, nothing happened. At least with this year, there was some shit happening throughout. I mean, I did not agree with most of it, but at least shit happened. 2014 was one of the most uneventful Rumbles in recent memory. And then 2012 I thought was the worst. Again, some people may disagree with that, but I just remember walking out of that Rumble, more so than last year, more so than this year, just with that Rumble ending. I just remember being so frustrated because we got the returns of Karma, Road Dogg, Ricardo, which were all great and slash funny. I enjoyed all of that, but that entire fucking Rumble was all comedy. Like, we had the entire commentary team in that matchup, which was gross. Like, we had Michael Cole in that matchup, and then we had Jey Uso in there. Randy Orton came out number 30. I remember was the Big Show. Just everything about that Rumble was just not good. And then Sheamus winning was good. Like, the finish I thought was great with Jericho and Sheamus. They had a really good back and forth, but most of that Rumble was so fucking disappointing. And Mick Foley was in there for like 5 minutes. So, yeah, I thought 2012 was the worst. So, quick recap here from best to worst: 2011, 2010, 2013, 2009, 2015, 2014, and 2012. So Brad's final question here: who do you think will win, and who do you want to win the tournament to become the new number one contender for the NXT Championship? Don't really have a preference, and I really have no prediction. That's the best thing about this tournament, is that all these guys have an equal chance of winning. There are no scrubs in this tournament. We have the best of the best. We have the elite of NXT in this tournament, which is amazing, and the matches should be great. We've got Hideo Itami versus Finn Balor, I think, coming up not this upcoming week, but next week. So I very much look forward to that. But who do I want to win? Like I said, no preference. Would it be amazing if we got a Finn Balor win? And the Finn Balor versus Sami Zayn for the championship would be beyond crazy. Would be like beyond amazing. So I would love to see that. Even Hideo Itami would be great. Tyler Breeze, we've seen it before. Wouldn't mind it. It would be nice to get him some direction again. I think he got eliminated, so never mind. Tyson Kidd, I think, is still in the tournament as of right now. Again, I've seen it a million times over, so don't really care for that. But of the people that have been announced for the tournament, Baron Corbin and Bull Dempsey, don't really have any desire to see them in the championship picture right now anyway. But yeah, probably either Finn Balor or Hideo Itami would be great as opponents for Sami Zayn. And like I said, prediction, really don't know. I don't think Adrian Neville wins. We already saw that matchup before. Same thing with Tyson Kidd. So I don't think either of those guys win, or Bull Dempsey or Baron Corbin. Yeah, those guys, I don't think Baron Corbin should lose in an NXT title match just yet. Bull Dempsey's already been beaten, and he shouldn't be the one to advance in the tournament. So that being said, don't really know who's going to win. I really have no idea. I would have to go with either Finn Balor or Hideo Itami. But who do I want to win? Either one of those guys would make for a great matchup with Sami Zayn over the NXT Championship. So with all that being said, folks, thanks for sending the questions. Always appreciate it. If you want to send in a question, you can tweet me on Twitter at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. You can find me on Facebook at Graham Jason Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Sunday nights when I gather all the questions. Or you can leave a post on the page throughout the week, and I'll be sure to include it in the video. And make sure to leave a comment down below on this video if you want your question to be included in next week's edition. So with all that being said, in the meantime and in between time, once again, folks, thanks for listening, watching. Always appreciate it. Going forward, hashtag AskGSM videos will be audio only, no video, which is fine. Not really a big deal. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share as well. Always appreciate it. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you guys next week.